I thought I was sharing, but apparently I was not.
And while Ronald's pulling some of his material together, please, if there are any questions that you have of our scholars, you can drop them in the chat or you can unmute yourselves. We're a small enough group for you to be able to ask those questions. So Mr. Smith is going to begin by just giving us a little of a breakdown of the program. And then each scholar is going to tell you a little bit about what they're doing in their research and some of their background and how they got involved with the program. And then we will open it up for questions. So Mr. Smith, I see you are up and I will turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Ron Smith, and I am the director of the Karsh STEM Scholars Program at at Howard University. And you see here a phrase that says one standard, excellence. At the Karsh STEM Scholars Program, we only have one standard, and that is the pursuit of excellence. In everything that we do, we want to do it in an excellent manner. Now, I would contend at this point that we have not achieved excellence. And what I mean by that is that we will always have excellence as a goal, something that we're chasing, something that we are aspiring towards. Every student in the program should be aspiring to be excellent. Every outcome in the program should be excellent, and everything that we do in terms of administration should be excellent. Okay, what do we have? Oh, there we go. All right, what you see on the screen now is the staff. Ms. Tracy Holmes is the program manager. Sika Odom is the administrative assistant. So we are a small staff, but we get a lot done on behalf of our scholars. The program began in 2016 when I was hired, the purpose of which was to build the program. We are a replication of a program that you've heard from already, the Meyerhoff Scholars Program at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I happened to have been working at UMBC when the program began. And so I was very much familiar with it, but so was the president at Howard University and the provost. And although Howard University already leads in a variety of different areas when it comes to STEM education, we thought that the need to develop more individuals who would earn either a Ph.D. in a STEM discipline or a combined MD PhD so that they might engage in research and teaching to prepare the next generation of STEM scholars so that they would become leaders in terms of policy development or in organizations that are STEM related, both in government and in private sector, that if that was going to happen, then Howard needed to join UMBC and others around the country who would attract students of color who are underrepresented in this space in order to create the diversity that we need and impact the lives of all persons. So we scour the country looking for the most gifted and talented students who are interested in pursuing STEM and who are willing to commit to pursuing a PhD or an MD PhD. They must be very focused. They must be academically talented. They must be willing to do hard work, and they must be willing to develop discipline. And so what you see pictured here is actually our first cohort. We admitted 32 students in the initial cohort, and they came from 17 different states in the US. Howard University is a national university, so our students come from all over. So the requirements for those who are interested in applying, you must have at least a 3.0 GPA out of high school, and that's an unweighted GPA. I know some of you may be engaged in either IB courses and you get more credit for those courses because the curriculum or what you learn is more difficult and more challenging. Some of you may be in AP classes for the same reasons, but we look at the unweighted GPA and then we give special attention to whether you were in rigorous curriculums like AP and IB. You cannot have any STEM related courses where you've earned less than a B. As I mentioned, you must be committed to pursuing either a PhD or the combined MD, PhD. Students who want to become medical doctors and practice medicine alone would not be appropriate for our program. You have to be interested in both the MD and the PhD to become what's called a physician scientist. So you would be treating patients, but you would also be looking for answers in terms of cures and treatments and things along that line. You must have documented evidence of community service because we think serving others is extremely important. You must be a US citizen or a permanent resident. And we also give additional consideration to students who can document leadership ability. And then of course, this year, because of the impact of COVID-19, many students weren't able to take the SAT or the ACT. So we made it optional for this year. Given the circumstances for next year, we're likely to go back to requiring students to take the ACT and or the SAT. Application usually opens on November the 1st and will close on January 30th. Now, what you see here are some of the program initiatives, that is the things that students would be entitled to as members of the program. Every student is required to participate in a very rigorous 6-week summer bridge program. And so pictured here on the upper left is a picture of some of our students from cohort 2 collaborating, I believe, in a chemistry seminar. And then down bottom here, Jasmine Hughley, is a cohort 4 student, which means she's a freshman, and she is being mentored by cohort 3 students who are sophomores. So mentoring is one of the things that we offer, both peer mentoring, which is what you see pictured here, but also professional mentoring, where you would have someone who may already have a PhD in a STEM discipline or the combined MD, PhD. They would be your mentors as well. All students are required to participate in summer research internships after their freshman year. Whether you go to earn a PhD or the combined MD, PhD, experience in research is going to be extremely important. And so we make sure that we're preparing our students to be some of the top applicants for graduate and professional school by making sure that they get those experiences while they're still with us as undergraduate students. Our program is a little bit different than some of the other ones that you've heard of before, the Meyerhoff, the Chancellor Scholarship Program, the Millennium Scholars, in that we focus on trying to help our students to develop a global perspective. That is, develop an awareness of the rest of the world to understand their cultural competency. And by that, I mean understanding the culture of other countries, how they go about their daily lives and what the
Mr. Smith, I think you are frozen. Are you all able to hear? No. Okay, let's see if we can.
that has on the decisions that they make and how it relates to STEM. It's important to know because researchers in I'm sorry, I'm back.
Okay,
You all
I
hear
think
me now?
we missed a little of that. If you want to go back or probably about 5 minutes or so.
Oh,
You were
wow.
frozen a bit there.
All right, let me see if I can get this.
I'm sorry.
There we are. Can you all see this?
No,
No?
nope.
1 second, maybe I have to ask it to share again. folks. That's your tech. Okay, my internet connection is unstable, so I apologize.
That's okay.
There may be another time that unfortunately it may go out. So I was talking about, I hope I was talking about when we broke, the fact that we try to get our students or encourage our students to develop a global perspective. And that is an awareness for others around the world and how they do the same work that we're doing. But we think about the cultural context, and that is what's different about what they do and how they do it in Germany or England or France or China or Japan. And what are those important differences, and how do we bridge the gap between those differences so that we can work together? A good example of what I'm talking about is the pandemic that we're all experiencing around the world right now. You can best believe that researchers in the US are working with researchers in China, in England, in Germany, in South America, in all these different places to come up with answers to how do we create everything from creating the vaccine to public health kinds of issues, and how do we get over those challenges. So in the future, it's going to be even that much more important that we know how to work with our colleagues in other countries. And so we're trying to give our students those experiences early on. We also encourage them to take advantage of study abroad. And I'd say about 13 of our students so far have taken advantage of study abroad, which will make a difference later on in their career. And then down at the bottom here, we also have cultural activities. This was an evening that we went out to hear a talk by Dr. Jemison. You all may know Mae Jemison, who is the first Black astronaut to go into outer space, I think either in 1991 or 1992. And so those things become very important as well. What you see here is the majors that our students are engaged in. We have 119 scholars, 47 of them are in biology, 15 are chemical engineering, 10 are in chemistry, 7 are civil engineering students. We have 8 in computer engineering, 12 in computer science. We have 1 electrical engineering student, 5 in mathematics, 7 in mechanical engineering, and 7 in physics. And then what you see surrounding those majors are some of the other interests that our students have. They're not just STEM majors interested in STEM programs. Some of them are very gifted musicians and artists and spoken word artists and all sorts of other preoccupations. So some of them may be minoring or double majoring in some of these other areas like French, African studies, Arabic, economics, photography, art, political science, and the like. Now, these are some of their specific interests in terms of what it is that they want to do when they pursue their PhD or their combined MD PhD. So some of them, one who might be pursuing an MD PhD may be interested specifically in oncology or rheumatology or genetics or dermatology. Someone who is interested in computer science or computer engineering might also be interested in artificial intelligence or data science or something along those lines, cybersecurity. And then the engineering students may be interested in a whole variety of different things like material science, and that is how do we make various materials either stronger, more durable, more elastic, or how do we create new materials that we've never had before that may have wide use in terms of a variety of different things that we are making for the public. And then we also have students who may be interested in marrying together more than one discipline to create new disciplines. And oftentimes that's done at the graduate level or the postdoctoral level. What you see here is cohort 1. Then there's cohort 2, cohort 3. And one of the things that I hope you're taking away from looking at these photographs, I hope that it's almost like looking in the mirror. So you're seeing all these young individuals, bright and highly capable, who look like yourselves. Now you'll notice the difference in the photographs here. The cohorts 1, 2, and 3 have professional photographs done by the university, but because of the pandemic, we've not been able to do the same for cohort 4, our newest cohort. These are our freshmen. And so they'll get professional photographs when they come to campus. All right. And later on, we'll have the opportunity for some questions. And that will allow me to share more at this stage of the game is to give has Austin joined us? What we're going to do at this point, guys, is we're going to give our students an opportunity to share some information about themselves. And originally, I wanted to start with our freshmen and go through until we got to our senior. But I think we're going to do it in reverse order this time. We're going to start with Ladaja Thompson. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. But the one thing I do want to mention about Ladaja as a takeaway is Ladaja was born and raised in Baltimore, just like me and just like many, if not all of you. And Ladaja is what I call one of our stars. And I'm not saying that because she's here. I'm saying that because it just happens to be the truth. And it makes me feel good because I was born and raised in Baltimore when we get one of our own who has done so well like her. And I want you to tell them, Ladaja, all about what it's been like to be a Karsh STEM Scholar. And I want you to finish by letting them know about the application process to graduate school and the decisions that you've gotten so far.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say you got my mom crying. She heard everything you said.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mom. It's the truth. It's the truth. Give them your Howard intro first.
So hello, everybody. My name is Ladaja Thompson. I am a senior chemical engineering major from Baltimore, Maryland, and I attend Howard University. So in terms of my academic experience, I'm not going to say that college is easy because it's not easy. It depends on the person. You know, I've succeeded in college. I've done well. You know, I have mostly A's in all my classes. But it's been tough, it's been hard. And the one thing that I've really taken away is just organization and making sure that you surround yourself with people who are like-minded and who work hard just like you, which is why I believe that this program is so important to me, just because I feel like I didn't just start college by myself. I started college with a cohort of other people who are highly motivated just like me, who have goals and aspirations to pursue their PhD or MD PhD. So I was really able to feed off their energy and they could feed off my energy. And we learned so much from each other, you know, especially starting in the summer, during summer bridge, I was able to make friends and network and meet new people. And then coming into my fall semester, starting school, you know, I knew people, I had study groups made already. I had an idea of who would be in my classes, where my classes were, what buildings they're in, professors on campus, and just like a network of people that I could reach out to, especially as a freshman and especially as a first generation student. You know, it's hard coming into college and not having a background, a great understanding of what I'm getting myself into, especially when you're on the fast track to, well, not a fast track, but you're on the track to getting a higher degree, which is a PhD or MD PhD. So it's important that you surround yourself with people who, you know, work hard and can support you throughout this journey. And I think that's the most important thing that that I've had, and which is why I'm so successful to this day. In terms of organization, I'm a very organized person. I believe organization and like provides you with a very clear mind. And it's important to remain organized throughout this entire process because I know when I'm unorganized, I get very overwhelmed and I shut down. And so just remaining organized, reaching out to professors, creating a network of people that you can reach out to and that you can rely on in your dark times or your hard times. And just, that's the most important thing for me is just, it's not coming in and doing things by yourself. It's important that you have a network and a family of people that you can rely on. So academics is very important to me, but it's also important to realize that academics should not make up your whole journey of college. Yes, college is, you're paying to go to school, but while you're in school, you need to take advantage of the resources they have on campus, expanding your network, going to events, joining organizations, getting on e-boards, make sure that you're not sitting around the whole summer and you're not even really focused on building yourself up. Sorry, my internet connection is unstable.
Ladaja, what I think part of what you're saying is that it's not all hard work, although it does include hard work. So what are some of the engagement
Yes.
that you've joined at Howard?
So my sophomore year is when I came to the realization that I was focusing solely on classes and that I wasn't also focused on becoming a well-rounded student and joining organizations and meeting people. I was just going to class and going back to my room, and that was it. So I told myself that I would join organizations. So I joined ICHE, the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, that chapter. I also joined a sorority. It's called Phi Sigma Rho National Sorority. It's a sorority for women in STEM and engineering. So through that, I was able to branch out and meet new people that were in my college and in other colleges who are also in STEM, who can also support me through this journey, but in a setting of sisterhood. So I was able to do community service initiatives and events. I also joined an organization called NOBICHE. It's the National Organization for the Advancement of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers. Through them, I was also able to join the Howard chapter and start up the Howard chapter again. I was the event coordinator for that organization, and I was also granted the traveling grant for the NOBICHE conference, and I was able to present my research at the conference they held. So it's so important to branch out and meet people and join organizations and build your network, because by building your network, you don't understand like the reach that you have. An example of this is, I think it was my sophomore year, it was 2019, and I didn't have a summer internship lined up for the summer. And because I was in the Karsh STEM Scholars Program, Mr. Smith had connected us with a lady named Dr. Sapporo, who is the Dean of Diversity at Johns Hopkins University, and who's also in charge of the Leadership Alliance summer internship program. And so through the Karsh STEM Scholars Program, I was able to connect with her, fill out an application, and get an internship for the summer at Johns Hopkins University doing research. And now I've connected with that PI, the principal investigator at that school, built a great relationship with her. And she's been advocating on behalf of me to come to Hopkins this fall to be in her lab. So it's so important to not just solely focus on your academics. Yes, that's important, but it's also important to build your network of people, get to know people, and become a well-rounded person. Have fun. College is supposed to be fun. Especially when things get tough, make sure you're taking advantage of your hobbies and what you're interested in, whether that be music. I'm really into music. I'm really into food. I like to cook. I love to listen to music. I played clarinet throughout high school. I went to Poly. I was in their band. So I really love music. I love to draw, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Before we move on to the next person, take a minute or two and tell them about the application process to graduate school and what the results are that you've gotten so far.
Okay, so the application process is tough, but what I will say is that you need to start off very early. So you need to start thinking about it probably junior year, second semester junior year. And you need to start studying for your GRE. and do a lot of research on the universities that you're thinking about. I didn't have a really good idea of the schools that I wanted to go to. I just looked up top BME or biomedical engineering programs in the country, and then I made my list based off that. But
you just said something that's very important. She said, I looked at the top schools in the country.
That's right.
yeah, I did that because it was a time where I was in high school and, I was doing good in school, but I doubted myself and I was too scared. I remember when I was too scared to apply to Johns Hopkins University and I never finished that application. And so now seeing myself here and actually have applied to that graduate school and have like a good chance of getting in, it feels really good. Somebody asked the question. Somebody said,
I'm just glad that you didn't finish your application to Hopkins.
Really? There's a question, Ladacia, right? Ladacia, in the chat. Do you feel Poly prepared you to do well in the Howard program?
I feel like Poly prepared me well in terms of figuring out what my interests are. I'm a very visual learner, and so engineering came very naturally to me, and I loved exploring engineering. And so I feel like Poly prepared me for college in general. I wouldn't say it prepared me for the Howard program, but I would say it prepared me for Howard in general, and just the rigor of work that we had to do at Poly. It instilled that drive and that motivation in me from like a very early start, so that when I got into college and when I got to Howard, it was a seamless transition. So I feel like Poly prepared me in that aspect. Poly also. No, I would say that's how Poly prepared me. What was I talking about before? Oh, I was talking about the grad school process. So in terms of graduate school, the process is hard, but I will say start off early. Make sure you're doing a lot of research on these schools. Think about the location you want to go to. Think about what you're interested in. Think about the PIs or the professors, the principal investigators who's over the labs. Think about those people. And just think about, okay, can I see myself going to this school? Will this school support me? Like, is this school giving me enough money to be able to live in the state that I'll be living in? Do I want to relocate and stuff like that? So there's a lot of thought that goes behind applying to graduate school. A lot of stuff I'm still learning and I'm still figuring out. Reach out to people, especially graduate students, reach out to professors, reach out to undergraduate students who are going through the process. Never feel embarrassed or nervous to do it. They're always happy to help, especially people like me, because especially people who are Black and brown, like I always want to see you guys striving and obtaining these higher degrees, because what you'll realize is that when you sit in these rooms, you're not going to see a lot of people that look like you. You're going to see yourself, and that's it. So it's important that we increase that representation. And that's why this program, like I value this program so much. So I applied to 7 schools. I applied to Johns Hopkins, Harvard, Rice, Yale, UT Austin, Clemson, and U Chicago. I've gotten 2 acceptances so far. I've gotten accepted into UT Austin and Yale University. I'm waiting to hear back from Johns Hopkins and Clemson, and then the rest of my schools as well. But I'm pretty excited. This was a journey. Before I started, I was really nervous about it. I didn't know how it would go, but it's important to remain faithful and to remember that you're a great student and you're a great person and you deserve that spot in the school, and to never doubt yourself, because as soon as you doubt yourself, then that's when you start failing. So never doubt yourself, always strive to do your best. Yeah.
Wonderful. Congratulations, Ladacia. We're just thoroughly excited about it. And hold on, because there'll be questions at the end. Now I'd like Lethan to introduce himself with his Howard University introduction. And then Lethan is going to talk to you guys about the Summer Bridge program and the trip to Germany. And then he'll be around as well to answer any general questions that you might have.
Yes, good evening. My name is Luton Hampton. I am a sophomore biology major, chemistry minor from Houston, Texas. I am in K3, the third cohort of the Karsh STEM Scholars Program. So it's an honor to be here. I remember when I was in your shoes, not much of this really processed in my head. I think it was around like high school when I kind of got interested into science and it just really intrigued me, just the extensive, fields that I can get into. But nonetheless, it is still an honor to be here. So I'd like to start off by talking about Summer Bridge Program, which is the 6-week program that we take coming into Howard. So it's a summer before your freshman year. It's a time where you get to, get introduced to the rigor of the Howard University curriculum. It's a time where you get to meet your cohort people, your cohort mates, and you kind of just like build your relationships with them. And so I definitely think that was the first time when I was surrounded by like-minded individuals that were as passionate about research as I was. I never really got that kind of environment in high school. And so that was also the first time where I was the majority, the first time where I was surrounded by African Americans, where I felt comfortable, felt happy. It was just a blissful atmosphere. And I think that was definitely the moment where I said, I'm in love with Howard University. And I just never looked back past that moment. So the Summer Bridge program was composed of 2 seminars and 2 credited courses. The seminars were the German seminar because we went to Germany at the end of the program. And then the second seminar was College Success Seminar, which is taught by Mr. Smith. Love that class. Definitely gave me a lot of good helpful tips with managing my workload throughout the semester. And I still use a lot of those tips to this day. And I definitely will use them in med school as well and graduate school. And then the other 2 courses that we took were the African American History Cluster course and Calculus 1. And so the thing I admired the most about putting the African American History Cluster course in the Summer Bridge program was the first course I took where I was taught about Black history. So I mainly went to predominantly white schools for high school and middle school. And so much of that history was just kind of like pushed aside, right? You would take that first 2 months of Black History Month where they would teach about slavery, then they just move on to colonialism or imperialism. And so I think this is the moment where I had 6 weeks to kind of learn about my history, learn about important figures that came out of Howard University and other HBCUs. And, it was just, that's what I really admired about that course. And so I think a lot of good things I took away from the Summer Bridge program, but the most important one was where I was taught to learn how to prioritize. I think there's many things that I got engaged with in the first semester of college. And so I think Mr. Smith definitely helped me. And I think it was definitely a problem first semester with making sure I spent, a right amount of time with studying, going to study groups, going to office hours. And I think that Summer Bridge definitely instilled that responsibility in me, like holding myself accountable of my own destiny. Only I can control that. Only I can determine, how I end up in the next 4 to 10 years. And so that was what Summer Bridge program was. Like I said, it was just definitely a good time where I got to meet my cohort people and then just kind of grew my relationship in DC with them. And so moving on at the end of Summer Bridge program, we got the opportunity to go to Germany. And so I think the whole idea behind Germany was, if you work hard, you play hard. And so I think it was definitely a great experience. Traveling to various museums and historical sites, getting immersed in the culture of Germany, as well as getting taught a global health and intercultural communication seminar. I think what I most enjoyed about it was getting the taste of a different culture. So we tried a lot of Turkish food. This really good dish called a doner. That was definitely I can just feel it right now. I just remember that moment. And I definitely love Germany. I definitely do plan to go back as well. So definitely love that experience. And then lastly, I want to wrap it up just by talking about summer research and the kind of opportunities that I've had right now. And so last summer, I had the opportunity to engage in virtual research with the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. And the good thing about that was that research revolved around information that I was taught in the past year. So freshman year, I was in an honors biology laboratory course, and the information that I extracted from that laboratory, I applied to my internship. It revolved around bacteriophages, and their effects on behavioral host cells. And so I think that was my first hands-on experience. And what I liked about that experience is was that it was virtual. So it challenged me in a way I hadn't been challenged before. I'm more so a hands-on person. I'm a visual learner. And through this whole virtual experience, I had to kind of like adapt and, find a way to formulate my own route on the project that I was given, which I really enjoyed. And then this summer, I will be at the University of Utah for internship in pathology with Dr. Kiki Fairfax. So I'm definitely excited for that as well. But summer research and summer bridge program are definitely two things that I've just had a great appreciation for throughout the Karsh STEM Scholars Program. So yeah.
Thanks, Lethan. Now Nicole Sullivan has joined us. We're going to ask her to do her Howard introduction, and then she's going to talk to you guys about engagement on campus from her perspective, as well as she's going to share information with you about her research experiences, and then whatever else she thinks may be useful and beneficial to you guys. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Sullivan, and I'm currently a junior computer science major at Howard University. So I guess we can start with research experiences.
Where are you from, Nicole?
Oh, I'm from Cerritos, California. Sorry. I've been, having to introduce.
That's fine. I just wanted them to know you guys come from all over.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I do have to say about being from California and being in DC, it's been definitely interesting. I'm not used to the cold, and all of this winter stuff is not me. Anyways, so in terms of research experience, I have not had a formal summer research experience because I've had 2 internships at Google. But through just networking with different professors, I've been able to have like kind of informal research experiences like during the semester. So one was at Howard with one of my favorite professors, and we were working on a way to help underrepresented CS students reduce their imposter syndrome. And so that's really cool work that I was doing with that professor.
Nicole, could
Yeah.
did you say imposter syndrome?
Mm-hmm. Imposter.
Could you explain what that is? Because I think a lot of people have been hearing about it, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very, very pertinent to our students. So could you explain that?
Yeah, definitely. So imposter syndrome is a phenomenon where one might attribute their accomplishments to luck instead of their actual skills. So for example, I know when I first got into the program, I was like, did I get lucky? Like, did Mr. Smith miss something? Like, am I supposed to be here? And from my understanding, that happens to a lot of people, especially in the field of computer science. So we have been working on a way to help CS students practice their fundamental data structure and like computer science skills to kind of rid themselves of those thoughts in their mind. So yeah, there's that research experience. And then also I'm involved with another research experience at UC Irvine, in which we hope to help improve access to mental health resources, like digital mental health resources, especially for Black and Latinx students. And so that's been really, really fun and really interesting. And that wouldn't have happened if I was not at Howard and networking with that specific professor. So that's been really awesome. Oh, and then also I recently started another project at NYU, and it is like a machine learning for climate project, in which we hope to help predict the rising sea levels in the Gulf Coast. And oh, I definitely forgot to mention my research interests. I am interested in machine learning and its applications to environmental and social issues. So that last project definitely hits on almost all of those points, and I'm really excited to be taking part in it.
What about your engagement at Howard? Have you joined any clubs, organizations, received any honors, awards, anything along those lines? Maybe you were lucky enough to get on the dean's list or something?
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know if CA has like an official dean's list anywhere, but I have.
I'll use that as an example. Just Tell us
Oh.
about your engagement at Howard.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm really involved with NSBE Junior. NSBE is the National Society of Black Engineers, and Howard has a junior chapter, so it's students all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade. And I do a lot with them on the weekends. On Saturdays, I teach students K through 4th how to code for a few hours. And then on Sundays, I'm a mentor for the robotics team. It's a group of, I believe, 5th grade boys. So that's been a lot of fun. Definitely not as fun as when we were in person, because everything is virtual now. But still, I've had a lot of fun working with NSBE, and yeah.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
And Mr. Smith, if you would have all your scholars, they have said the names of some wonderful organizations, NSBE, and we heard a lot of chemical organizations from Ladisha. If they could just drop those names in the chat, I think that would be helpful, because some of the questions, at least for past discussions, have been what organizations are around that may indeed be doing things for the younger generation, like you were just talking about, K through 4, that they could potentially get involved in. So that would be really helpful if you could.
Absolutely. So guys, can you do that, please? Ladesha, I know you named at least 3. And excuse me, NSBE is a really important one, because students can be practically of any age and belong to NSBE. And so if you guys could put those in the chat, that would be helpful. Ms. Adams, did you have any questions from the students that they would like to ask, or that you would like to ask on behalf of the students?
Well, there's one question here about a computer science program. And I think that would just be a yes, but if anyone wanted to expound on that, they could. I had a question for Nicole. What was your experience like at Google?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I was able to get an internship at Google. It was definitely an experience. Again, I've never really worked at a big company like that, and definitely not in industry. So it was a big learning curve, but I enjoyed working at Google. I was at the LA office, and there were about, I believe, like 5 other Black interns there. And so they definitely really helped make my experience amazing, pretty much. And then in terms of the actual project, that itself was something I don't think I would have got to work on if I weren't at Google. It was, again, a huge learning curve, but all of the skills I learned were very applicable, I believe, to my classwork and all of that. So it was really fun. And then I see the question in the chat, does Howard University have a computer science program? Yes, Howard has a computer science program. We have a lot of amazing professors, interested in a wide variety of things. And yeah, if there's anything specific you want to know about the computer science program, I'd be happy to tell you.
And Howard not only has a computer science program, but it also has a computer engineering program. And as Nicole mentioned, there would be a description of both on our website, so that you can distinguish what is the difference between studying computer science versus studying computer engineering. There's some overlap, but there are some distinct differences as well.
So we heard a little bit from Lethan about the advantages of being in a program at an HBCU. If Nicole or Ladesha had more to say on that, it would be interesting, because we've been able to have programs here from a lot of different schools, but one of the unique things about your program is that it is at an HBCU. And so I'd love to hear what you think about that, what that has done for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Can
So
I add
I
to
think,
that? Before you start, I want to add to that because I would like for you to speak about it in the context of, I know that you all applied to and were admitted at some very good, predominantly white institutions. So why did you choose Howard? What do you think has been the difference in coming to Howard versus some of your other choices?
yeah, definitely. So I think that being at an HBCU just kind of provides a different like community, a different level of community than you might experience at PWI. Um, so earlier, I know I mentioned, I was at Google, and one of the big differences of being at Google versus like anywhere else is the fact that there were hardly any Black people, and it was very intimidating. And I think being at an HBCU kind of rids you of that almost, because it's it's definitely less intimidating to walk up to a student at an HBCU versus or someone that looks like you versus someone maybe at a PWI where you might be the only person that looks that way in the class or whichever program that you're a part of. So I think being at an HBCU definitely provides some like a different level of like community and like comfort almost.
For me, what I've noticed that some PWIs is when they value diversity, it's like, why do you value diversity? What is your motive behind valuing diversity? Is it because of the current climate that we're in? Is it because you really care about diversity? Do you really think I'm a good student, or are you just trying to meet a quota? But at Howard, you don't have that. Like, we are the diversity. And what you'll notice is that you think all Black and brown people are the same when you come to Howard. Everybody's so different. They come from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, nationalities, countries, states. And so like you really can expand your knowledge of just people and people within your own community and learn so much about them. And because you have this commonality between you, you guys, like, we motivate each other so well. One thing that I really value about Howard is how much they value networking. So Howard really, really values networking and getting to know people and preparing yourself for that world. And especially when you get out in these other spaces, they're like, wow, like, I wasn't expecting you to just come up to me and just talk to me, or, and be so confident in yourself. And I feel like Howard really helped me to build my confidence within myself because I was in this space. Also through Howard, as Letha mentioned, like, taking Africana Studies classes, I was able to learn so much more about my culture that I didn't know before. So much more. Like, our culture is so much deeper than what you learn in high school history classes, American history classes. And I feel like I wouldn't have got that experience at any other school but in HBCU. So I really value that.
Thank you. There's another question in the chat here. How do you all deal with the pressures of succeeding in fields that aren't very diverse? Or I guess the question for you all would be, have you thought about how that will be when you get out there? So in some cases, you're there already, like you said, in intern experiences. And in some cases, you will be there full time. So, and for the women on the call, it's not just your race, it's also your gender, particularly in computer science. So I think it's a great question. How do you think you're going to deal with those pressures? And I guess the other side of that, I would say to Mr. Smith, do you talk about that at all with the students, as something they need to think about before they graduate?
I'm going to let them answer first.
Yeah, I would love to start off. I think I wanna bring it back to Ladisha's point earlier when she was saying how in high school she constantly doubted herself. And I think for me, I was surrounded by my white counterparts, so I was constantly feeling as if I was inferior, or if I wasn't up to, take honors classes or take advanced classes and just be on the level that they were at. And I think being at Howard, I've learned that my potential, along with, African American potential as a whole, our potential has been undermined in STEM fields, but it's important that we realize that our potential is limitless in that field. I think holding yourself accountable and reminding yourself that so many people fought for you to be in that spot to increase the underrepresentation in the STEM field. And I think when you talk about pressure, for me at this point in time, I don't feel as if I will have any pressure, just because every day I wake up and constantly remind myself that I am fit for this job. I can do it and I will do it. And I promise you I will get there no matter what. I think that's the key. That the key is reminding yourself that you are made for this and you're fit for this. And if anybody else can do it, you can do it. I think it's all about holding yourself accountable. That's what I would say.
Wonderful.
The question to me, when we opened the program, we said that we have one standard, and that's excellence. And when I conceived of only having one standard, we have 10 values, but we only have one standard. The reason why I thought excellence should be our standard was because I felt like we were recruiting students for whom the only standard that they would see that would be pertinent for them would be excellence, because they've worked very hard their whole lives. I mean, when Ladaja's cohort came in, there were 487 applicants, and we only chose 32. You kind of had to be excellent to get chosen. And so when we do the College Success Seminar, we talk about everything from make sure that they understand that there are 8 different types of intelligence. And so they should not allow anyone to regard them from a very minute perspective as if they only had one dimension. All of us have all 8 of those dimensions at various different levels. We talk about, self-value. We talk about self-image. We talk about a whole range of things that causes students to do a self-assessment so that they can arrive at their own worth from their own perspective. I mean, we can tell them they're wonderful. If they don't think they're wonderful, no one else is going to regard them as wonderful. Right. When I address them as scholars. When I address them as esteemed scholars. When I address them, I sometimes talk about them as being young and emerging scholars. If I write a recommendation, I talk to their institutions where they're applying for research internships or graduate school. I refer to them as esteemed scholars or emerging scholars or brilliant. I use all of those terms that I think are accurate reflections of who they are and how other people should regard them. So we regard them with a great deal of value-laden words. And then when we talk about them, we talk about them in the same way, because I want you to think of them in those terms as well. But nothing is more important than how they think about themselves. And we do talk about that. Sometimes it's one-on-one, sometimes it's in small groups, and sometimes it's with the larger group. But they have to believe it, because I certainly do. I'm so excited right now that we've got a senior class. I don't know what to do, because this is such a critical point along the continuum, because now everybody else out there is making some judgment about the preparation that they've engaged themselves in over the last 4 years. And that's what gets you admitted to a Yale University. And students on the call might not have heard of University of Texas at Austin, but it's one of the finest public institutions in the country. And then, there are lots of other students in that cohort, and they're getting admitted to Stanford and University of Pennsylvania, and just, I'm over the moon about it.
It's wonderful. So we heard from Nicole of her interest and Ladaja's interest. Lethan, what are you interested in pursuing?
Yes, so thank you for asking. I'm interested in pursuing a combined MD Ph.D. And so right now, my main interests are cancer biology, virology, and bacterial pathogenesis. But I think I also want to kind of gear my future towards global health. And in that sense, I'm talking about providing healthcare for developing countries, under-resourced countries, and low-income communities that don't receive adequate healthcare. And so, when I talk about my research interests, like I said, cancer biology is number one. But for my vision for my career, I think I want to center that around global health as well.
It's wonderful. So any of our participants, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith or any of the scholars? As I said, you can either drop them in the chat or you can unmute yourself. We're a small enough group and just ask the question aloud. It is up to you.
Ms. Adams, one of the things that I realized I failed to do is to let the students know that getting admitted into this program also comes with a scholarship. So what we're trying to do is remove all the potential barriers to success that might exist, particularly for minority students. And so it is a very significant level of scholarship support that's provided. You either get 100% of your tuition fees, room, board, books paid for. You don't pay anything during the summer bridge program. You don't pay for the trip to Germany. And so it is a very lucrative scholarship. I think we calculated it to be worth somewhere between $140,000 and $168,000
Wow.
scholarship. Now, some of the students will get 75, but based on family income, 75% of tuition, 100% of mandatory fees, but they get full room and board and allowance for books, and they get summer bridge and the trip to Germany as well.
Wonderful.
I don't think there are any scholarships and programs like this that provide lucrative support at that level.
Wow. So we are winding down. Thank you very much for that information.
Can I
And if
say
we could,
just a couple more things, Ms. Adams?
sure. And then you tell me a couple more things, and then I'd like each of the students to sort of give your words of advice, a few words of advice to the students who are listening. So go ahead, Mr. Smith.
There are two things that we should share with you that says something about what we've been able to accomplish in the short time that our program has been around. And it is important to also point out that this is owed to the tremendous work that our students have done. One, the average grade point average for every cohort is very high. For cohort 1, which is our seniors, it's about 3.62, 3.63. For cohort 2, it's around 3.81. Cohort 3 is also around 3.8 something. And then for the freshman cohort, it's around 3.91. So these students are really excelling. Another indication of our success is that we were awarded in 2019, in October, we got a $400,000 grant from the Claire Booth Luce Foundation. In November of the same year, we got a $4 million grant from Hopper Dean Foundation. And then in December, although it was announced in January, in December of 2019, announced in January of 2020, we got a $10 million grant from the Karsh Family Foundation. And that's why our name changed from the Bison STEM Scholars Program to the Karsh Scholars Program, STEM Scholars Program, and we are endowed. So that means no matter what happens, our program will be around for as long as you can imagine. And then the last thing is we were also recognized by Inside Magazine, which is a STEM-related publication, as one of the inspiring STEM programs in the country. So those are all good indications of the successes of the program.
That's incredible. Okay, so there's a question. When will applicants hear about the next steps for being a part of the program? So we may have some interested people on the phone.
Yeah, we're in the process of, well, the application deadline, of course, is closed. It closed on January the 30th, but we are in the process of reading applications now. Applications are up by more than 100 applications this year. So we've really got our work cut out for us, but we're reviewing applications now, and then we will notify students in early to mid-March, those that are being invited to the selection program, that will happen on Friday, March 19th, Saturday, March 20th. And then after that, we will choose the students that we want to offer a place in the program. We will notify them early this year. We're notifying them on April 1st, and then they'll have until May 1st to tell us whether they accept our offer or not.
Great.
So applications for next year will open on November 1st, 2021.
So not to put you on the spot, Khalil Daniels, but could you put your camera on and so that Mr. Smith could see who's been asking these wonderfully intelligent questions? Okay, I think he's thinking about it. In the meantime, could we have the students, Ladaja, Nicole, and Lethan, share some words of wisdom for our students listening?
Sure. So the first thing I would say is make sure, as I stated before, don't limit yourself by solely focusing on one thing throughout life, throughout your college journey. Broaden your horizon and get involved in as many things as you possibly can. Figure out what you're interested in, meet new people, build your network, and make sure, this is another big thing, please find as much money as possible to support you going to college. Please don't pay for college. Don't take out loans. There's no need to take out loans unless you like really have to. There's money out there for you. You just have to keep looking for it because you don't want that to be an added stress on you on top of college. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Nicole?
Yeah, definitely. So first, I just want to say, if anyone is interested in computer science or like AI or machine learning, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to talk to any of you or all of you. So maybe if I can figure out some way to send you all my email, that'd be cool. But I guess in terms of advice, I guess just know that you belong. Like whichever field that you end up going into, just know that you belong. I know I've struggled with that for a while, just because computer science, it's a very intense field with a lot of brilliant minds. And as I mentioned earlier, like the imposter syndrome, like it does creep up on you. But I've been able to kind of combat that by just, knowing and believing that I do belong. And that has helped a lot. So.
Yeah, I think to add on that, I would say that that's actually some good advice. Okay, so I would say first off, you should probably start by making some short-term and long-term goals. I think something that I wish I would have, that's something I wish I would have done in high school, just so that I can stay focused and determined about what I want to do. And once you've made those goals, remind yourself every day and tell yourself every day that you can do that. You can accomplish it. Decree it as if it's already done. Manifest it for yourself. I think that's something important for people that are interested in STEM, interested in having these great positions of research as physicians. And I think something I would also just suggest is to be ready to grow. Growth is something that's inevitable when you're in college and high school as well. I think I would say college for me is something that I've gone into weak and I'm hoping to come out very strong. And I believe in that wholeheartedly, that I will come out strong and I will come out with skills, newly acquired skills that will help me in graduate school and beyond. So yeah.
Thank you very much. And Nicole, we do some computer science work with little ones during the summer in camps. So if you would be around on the summer and you would be interested, please do drop your email in the chat so I can reach out to you, because we've already been approached by folks who are interested in the camp again this summer. And so I'll be looking for teachers. So
definitely
be wonderful to get your information.
Yeah.
I will add, however, that typically during the summer, they're doing their summer research internships, which is an obligation. So if it were in person, she wouldn't be able to do it.
No, it's virtual.
If it's virtual, then
Yes.
it might be something different. Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely. That's definitely something to consider. And then also, I don't know if anyone talked about this earlier, but time management skills are very, very important. That is something that I've definitely had to work on, you know, coming into college and then also being virtual. It's really easy just to sit there and watch Netflix all day and not do your homework. But, you know, time management skills, being able to, you know, say, okay, I know Mr. Smith has us plan out like every hour of our day at the beginning of each semester. So that's definitely something I think is a really, really important skill going into college and even in your time in like high school. So, yeah.
Terrific. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us. This has been a wonderful chance to talk to you and to hear about your program. Everyone we've spoken to, of course, is incredibly impressive. We wish you the best. And if we should hear anything else from any of the people who are on the call, I have Ron's email. I will reach out to him and pass on any additional questions we have. And, you know, I hope that as we build our community here, if we have other opportunities to reach out and have you all share again with us, that you will be willing, because I think these kinds of programs are just really great for our students to see scholars who are brilliant and of color, and to imagine themselves sitting in your shoes. So
Ms. Adams, I want to obligate our program to two things. One is that we're happy to come every year and do a similar kind of conversation with you guys and share about our program. The other thing is, once the campus is reopened, we'd like to invite your students to come to Howard University.
oh, wonderful.
And engage at the campus, as well as we'll put together a program for the students where we would do some mini poster presentations and talk about the research that students are doing, and maybe even can arrange for some shadowing where they can go to some classes and things like that. So we will commit to that to include providing transportation.
Oh, thank you so much. That is just fabulous.
Lethan wouldn't have us do it any other way.
Uh,
He nudged me, said, Mr. Smith, okay, you got to get out on the line now.
well, good. Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
And we'll talk about that over the next couple of months as we see what happens in the pandemic world. So if
Great.
we can't do it this year, we'll do it next year.
Terrific. Again, thank you so much. We are going to have the recording posted. So once that's done, I will send you the email link so you can see the recording. And again, we really, really appreciate you spending some time with us this evening.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.